So, speaking of fantasy sports, there's this concept in daily fantasy sports called bankroll management. And I wanted to bring that up in regards to sports card
Yeah.
investing because
Okay.
I don't think that I haven't heard anyone talk about bankroll management related to sports card investing. I think like when I first started listening to podcasts and consuming content for sports cards, it was like, other than Sports Card Investor podcast,
Yeah.
it was all about like the hobby and collecting. And like I had to sort of find my place. Like, why do I love this? Why am I doing this? And as you know, and the listeners know, like I'm all about sports card investing. Like I think it's great that people have PCs. I totally understand why. That's not really what I'm doing. And so I think I have like this, I say that to say that of the content that's out there right now, most of it is trying to kind of cater to multiple masters, if you will, where it's like I want to talk a little bit about PC, I want to talk a little bit about investing, I want to, but like really everyone kind of wants to talk more about investing, but no one's talking about bankroll management, which I think is a concept that we should all be focused on, because if you don't have a plan for your bankroll, have a plan for your money, like what are you really doing? What you're doing is you're basically just like taking a shot in the dark on the hot new guy maybe before it happens, or you're, taking a shot in the dark on something before it happens. And so with the sports card investment report and all the research that I've been doing, putting time into building out that product, I also started the mindset more than ever of, if I had $10,000 or if I had someone else's $10,000, how would I break that down into pieces as an investment portfolio? And then that got me thinking, that's bankroll management, basically, is what that is. Like, how much of that even $10,000 would I even put into certain cards? Like, I don't even think I would put it all in right away. I think I would hold X percent of it out. I think I would put X percent of it in. And then within that percentage that I put in, I would break it down by maybe guys like Steph Curry, Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, and then maybe break it down by guys like LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, Joe Burrow, and then break it down by guys that are like O'Neal Cruz, DeAndre Hunter, Tyrese Maxey, Kenyon Martin Jr., Yunus Musa, right? So I know you're following the different layers. For everyone, for the audience, what we're talking about is like sort of your legends, like your surefire guys. Then your next tier of like have to really screw up for a long period before they lose a lot of their value. And then you're talking about like really have to perform very, very well before anyone even takes them seriously. So it's kind of like multiple tiers. So I just don't know that people even think that way. But do you think that way? And what are your thoughts just kind of on that bankroll management concept?
Yeah, I think go ahead and briefly say what a bankroll is for not I mean, just because like if someone is completely unaware, just inform them what that would be. Like you kind of just did a breakdown there, but inform a bankroll real
Mm-hmm.
quick.
Yeah. Well,
Because
so
I
as
have a
I
concept
understand it, and I
of what
could,
I'm saying is a bankroll, but I want to make sure we're on the same page.
yeah, somebody may crush me in the comments on this, and that's fine. But my understanding of what a bankroll is really more related to daily fantasy sports than anything else, and probably now FanDuel, DraftKings, and other online sports books. I mean, I don't live in the U.S. right now, so I can't participate in this, which is why I'm a little out of touch with the bankroll management. But as I understand it, it's basically, let's say you put $500 into FanDuel. Your bankroll management is just, how do you break down that $500? Like, do you strategically put that into cash games or big tournaments, or do you maybe mix that up and now do like some player prop bets? And then based on the results of your bets, how do you then continue to manage that? Do you, like, let's say you're up 50%, and so let's say you make $250 back out of your 500. Now you got 750. Now bankroll management continuously means, out of that 750, do you continue to put in the 500 and hold out the 250, or do you manage it maybe the other way and say, I'm going to put the 250 in and hold out the 500? And then like, what percentage of your overall ability to put into a bet, or in this case, a card, do you put into the market or the game versus hold out in liquid cash? So that, I think at a high level, is how I would just talk about the concept of bankroll management.
Nice. So if from my perspective, I would view it like a portfolio, like, you know, so in turn, you asked me like previously before we got on, like, what is my process of bankrolling? And to be honest, like, this is something that I'm working on. And then in this, like, as soon as January rolled around, I was like, I need to get better at a process of like having funds that are dedicated specifically for this realm, you know, and kind of view it more as an LLC or like something like, I mean, it's not an LLC yet for me, but like kind of think about it like in terms of like, this is allocated money here, and like, how can you best play risk reward here in terms of your investment portfolio. And I think what I have done and the steps I've taken to kind of get to that way is I've actually created a separate Cash App account for, like, my Cash App account is specifically for my investments. And so it actually comes with a card and all that kind of stuff. So I can like I can deposit and then also like use the card like it is like a debit account, but it's just my Cash App. And so like anytime that I sell cards on eBay, I'm actually putting it into Cash App, and then I like pay myself out on anything like through that and moving it back into my bank account, but I don't move it all. So I can like keep, this is my my card money, I guess, if that makes sense. And so it started as like like my wife and I budgeting really well and like trying to say like, this is our play money. But then now my play like that, now my play money or whatever has actually just taken on more of like a responsibility of saying, no, this is my investment portfolio. And so what started as just like a play money thing is now actually my bankroll. And I'm trying to get more and more strict on that of saying like, okay, how much do I keep in there at all times? You know, like, how is there ever a point where I just zero it out? You know, is there ever a point where I like push all my funds in on an investment, or is there any point where I need to get liquid out of my investments? You know, and so I think that concept of bankroll is really, really interesting and important. And I think that although it's kind of second nature to me as somebody who's done a lot of like trading in terms of like Forex, and I have experience in crypto and also in stocks. And so that concept is really important. I don't think it's really important or even on the front of people's mind in terms of sports card investing. And I think if it was, and if there was an easy way for that to be tracked and all that kind of stuff, I think people would be more for it. But also at the same time, I think that people would raise red flags of saying like, oh, but then it becomes a taxable thing for me. Oh, then it becomes like a record keeping where I now have to like I actually have a responsibility for this. And like, the truth of the matter is like, the more legit you become in something, the more responsibility comes with it, you know. And so if you're going to be a legit investor in sports cards, yeah, there are responsibilities you're going to have to do. You know, you are going to have to, you know, do those kind of things. And so that I'm kind of getting on like a little bit of a, you know, off of sports card investing there, and potentially into some some things we don't really want to talk about. But
I think you bring up a couple great points that, yeah, I just want to elaborate on what you said, because I think you're absolutely right. And the way that I would describe it is like, my guess is the reason why this doesn't necessarily exist as a real topic yet, although we're bringing it to the forefront, which I love, is this has been a hobby and people have wanted it to be a hobby and they haven't wanted to keep track of it. And they've been okay with like selling cards to then have money to buy more cards. And so maybe some people get a kick out of, am I up or am I down? But like, I would say most people don't care in the hobby. And they're like, okay, well, and to your point, they don't want to care because maybe they're scared of what the actual results are. Because then it becomes a topic either that they would be embarrassed by, or that they would have to, I guess, pay taxes on, which I think, that part's kind of dumb. Like you should track it that way, and you should pay taxes and all that, but that's a different soapbox, right? So I think that, like, the way that I look at it is there are more and more people paying attention to sports cards as alternative investment. And so I think, like it or not, there's going to continue to be more and more people coming in, taking it seriously, like they take NFTs seriously, or they take sports betting seriously, or whatever. And so what I want everybody to understand is that you have to look at this like, what percentage of the money that you're spending is going to go towards your reliable legends that are going to make the Hall of Fame and always be that number one guy? What percentage are going to be kind of the guy now because it looks like they could be the guy or the girl? And then what percentage is going to go just like towards total flyers, like that where you feel like you can be right, and then you can hold those bragging rights over your friends. Like, and I think there's if you do too much of any of them, then you're in danger of really not making any money on it. But I don't think there is a right or wrong mix. I just think people should start keeping track of their mix, or at least being cognizant of it. Now, I think you and I are probably pretty similar. I track everything in a spreadsheet. So everything I buy, everything I sell, I could tell you exactly how much money I've spent in the last, 18 months, and exactly how much I've earned in the last 18 months, and on what exact thing. I think another reason, but I'll just share this. Like, I think why it's been hard for me personally to really hone in on this concept of my bankroll management is because I had a bunch of my old cards graded, and I'm still waiting for the grades. I'm still waiting for the cards. And I kind of want to start fresh with a bankroll concept. So while I'm tracking everything pretty religiously, because I don't have like half of my stuff, and I feel like I need to get rid of that before I can be then fresh and like a brand new bankroll.
Yeah.
I haven't like really fleshed it out yet for myself personally, but what I'm trying to do with the sports card investment report is, like, if somebody is going to look at that at nooffseason.com, or if someone's going to join as a premium member and get access to all the content, I want to have those players ranked like they're starting from zero, like they're putting X amount of dollars in from zero. And so I want to have 1 through 100 ranked kind of by this formula of what's the balance of this individual player between like those 3 factors, right? Like price, I think pricing, legacy, and upcoming markers for outperforming their current status as a player. So I guess it's something that I think everybody should do. And like when you do it doesn't really matter, as long as like you start to formulate it and come up with like a day, like if you're going to start it today, or if you're going to start it after you achieve a certain thing, like I need to sell all these cards first and then I'm going to do it. Or, whatever it is, even if you're just like a hobbyist, like you want to make money, like it's okay to admit it. Like, I think we're all investors here, and, have a PC, but listen to all the content out there, and it's all pretty much based on the prices of sports cards. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring to the forefront as a concept today.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I'm kind of in the same realm where I had a lot of learning experiences in the past couple of years where I'm like, okay, I feel like now I'm at a point where I really know what I'm doing, like to a surgical level, and so there's in my concept of bankroll, there are some things that I own or some things that I have, like here that I'm not necessarily tied to and would love for somebody to pay for me to get rid of, but at the same time, like, how do you start that, and when do you kind of categorize that and things like, and all that. That's a great concept. And I think the concept of having so the way I look at it is goats, heroes, and flyers are like the way that I personally have done it. And so like I've told you several times that I'm out of basketball and football, but I do have a Brady and I do have a Kobe and I do have, it's like, I'm not even considering that part of my portfolio because those are so long-term plays for me that I'm willing to safety deposit box those, and so it's like, that's a completely different argument for me than an O'Neal Cruz. An O'Neal Cruz, my investment typically lives in the flyer zone. I have goats and I have like local heroes is what I like to call them. Basically people that are not goats, but like the local media just freaking loves them, so it's like, like there's some guys that are on that borderline of like, for instance, Dirk Nowitzki, I think is a borderline goat or a hero. Like I think in Dallas, people think he is the best basketball player of all time. And I think he definitely has done a lot for the game. But I don't know if he's necessarily in the GOAT conversation. But his status will keep him in that hero, definitely a safe guy. And maybe that's not the best example because he's definitely more on the GOAT side of those conversations than he is on the local hero side. But for instance, like, oh man, who's somebody that's not necessarily a flyer, but is not necessarily a GOAT? Man, I don't know. Anyway, so, but
what about like a John? Well, like what about like a John Elway? Like I don't know if we're talking retired
that's a
players
great
or if we're
one.
talking,
Okay.
Okay.
Or like, anybody like that necessarily, like if you go to Denver and you have a John Elway card, people think you can just, it's a get anywhere ticket, like, oh man, that guy's got an Elway PSA 10 on the wall. If you were to put an Elway PSA 10 in Kentucky, people would be like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that
exactly.
would sit on your table at a card show for a long time, probably. But if you were to sit that on your table at a card show in Denver, you wouldn't even make it past the first hour, probably. So I think that's kind of what I'm talking about local heroes. And I think Draymond actually fits into that category, like kind of tying into what we talked about earlier. Draymond fits into that local hero category for me, where like in Michigan State or in Northern California, I think Draymond cards probably are, you never have problems selling them. But at the same time, like if you're in South Florida, I don't think a Draymond card is going to be that popular because of all the crap that he's done to the Heat in the past, and so, and then
I was
the
gonna say,
Flyers conversation.
I probably couldn't sell a Draymond. Yeah. I was gonna say like Draymond. If I tried to sell him in Nashville or something, there's no way. Like, I'd get offered like $5.
Yeah, people would be like, oh, that guy kicks people in the privates, like nobody watches basketball there, and so. But anyway, there's just.
But I like.
Go ahead. I'm
like
done.
your concept of. Yeah, your goats, heroes, and flyers is like perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about, and so I think that the way that I've updated the sports card investment report is if you were to have looked at it yesterday before this show, it would be pretty much all flyers, all heroes and flyers, like ranked high, because that's where I feel like I'm kind of like you. I feel like if you give me the opportunity to tell you flyers in football and basketball, like I'll probably hit on it 80. I'll probably bat 800 or 900. Like I'll have a pretty good bat. Like I'll have a Hall of Fame batting average at saying, okay, Gary Trent Jr.'s PSA 10 is going to be worth more than $20.
Yeah.
Like in a few weeks, just trust me. And so like, but does that mean Gary Trent Jr. should be like in the top 5 sports card investments? And that's what I had to calibrate, right? And so that got me into the concept of the bankroll management, because it's like, if I'm going to take your money and invest it. Am I really going to buy Gary Trent Jr. with your money? Or am I going to find like a really good Devin Booker with your money? Knowing that like if I say Devin Booker or Gary Trent, their trajectory over the next 4 months are going to be very different. Like Gary Trent will have to score 35 points a game over the course of a week to make the same jump that Devin Booker is like guaranteed to have in May with like one good playoff performance. So I think other than the X factor, which is injury, you can never really, that's the one thing with sports card investing that you can never really control is injury. But if you're going to go more hero and goats, active goats and heroes, which I guess you could have some heroes that aren't active, but let's just say active goats and heroes are going to be far safer than the flyer play, because the flyer play, as cool as it might be to hit on like a Desmond Bain or a Tyrese Maxey or a Grayson Allen, the reality is like if they suck, then like you're kind of out of luck. I mean, you could be out of luck, like period. You could be left holding the bag on that guy, and that's kind of the worst feeling. So I definitely went more goats and heroes with the sports card investment report with flyers mixed in. So you've got guys like, if you check it out, you've got Steph, Giannis, Booker, Brady. I added Mbappe because I didn't even have, like, Mbappe wasn't even in my top 50. And now he's number 5. And the reason why he wasn't in my top 50 is because I was like, well, like everybody knows Mbappe, and like to get in on Mbappe, you have to spend X amount of money. And then what's really what's going to make his cards go up? Like something spectacular is going to have to happen. But then I started to think, wait a minute, like if I'm going to spend your $500 on something, I'm going to want Mbappe over, say, Trevor Lawrence, for example, because I know that Mbappe has the World Cup coming up. I know that he's in the spotlight in PSG. I know that he's like already one of the top 2 players in the world right now. There's no way that he's going to have to really suck for like 5 years for his card prices to go down from where they are now, versus like if Trevor Lawrence like has a pretty bad start to the NFL season, like it could be a while before his card prices come back up again.
Yeah, I think when I spent some time this morning looking at your investment report, and I saw some of the movers, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And then I walked through a little bit of the high, low, mid, or high. Why did I say it like that? High, mid, low rankings. And sorry, my dog is kind of barking. It's distracting me. But I really liked how you transitioned some of those things. For instance, I think Giannis is one of the safest bets right now. And as a current player, it's just like, dude is incredible. If he just starts making, if he was able to get to like 70% free throws or 80% free throws, like, holy cow, this guy is going to touch every record in the record book potentially, besides like 3-point percentage, like he's going to do incredible things. And so for him having it up there at number 2 is great. And oh geez. I have a 90-pound dog, so when he decides that he wants to move, like everything moves. So but anyway, yeah, I think the balance is really important of being almost like a broker of somebody else's money is different. And if I'm thinking about my money, I'm like, oh yeah. If I'm thinking about it like my money, then I'm like, okay, I can invest. I'm willing to spend money on Lolo Sanchez because like I'm willing to handle the risk, but
you want to be right about Lolo Sanchez, which I totally understand. Like I want to be right about Riley Green, but that doesn't mean that, or I want to be right about something maybe even more obscure than Riley Green, Bones, right? Like,
yeah,
but yeah, Bones Highland or Cam Thomas or one of the other NBA rookies that I love. But like, that doesn't mean that I'm going to take your money and buy that guy's card with it.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure that that's going to happen. So I did calibrate the report in that way, and I do appreciate you saying that because, and I think you did a good job articulating like the GOAT hero flyer is like perfect. But like one other point I want to make on this that I think is key is like seasonality. Seasonality is key when looking at this report
Yeah.
because like you notice I moved LeBron up. Well, LeBron was like in the 40s. Now he's number 11. Well, the reason is because like he's playing well and his card prices are still kind of where they were. So like he's proven, and now Anthony Davis is back. And now it's like you're going to have some markers for LeBron and other context. Tom Brady just retired. What happened to his card prices when Tom Brady retired? So like then you start to think, well, if LeBron is this GOAT like Brady, he's going to make another run. He's going to maybe want to play with his son. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. There's going to be like all these ridiculous ceremonies when he retires, like all this stuff. So but the point is like LeBron wasn't worth owning at number 11 or buying at number 11 a couple months ago, but now he is. Another one real quick is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not in my top 15. He's not in my top 25. Joe Burrow is actually number 28. The reason why Joe Burrow is number 28 is because I don't think you should buy Joe Burrow cards right now. I think if you want to buy, like what you'll probably see is Joe Burrow will be maybe in the top 15 in June when nobody really cares as much about his cards as they do leading up to the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford is ahead of Joe Burrow at number 27. That's because before the Super Bowl, I think you should buy Stafford because I think the Rams are going to win the Super Bowl. But then you probably won't see Matthew Stafford in the top 50 after that. You may not. So I think seasonality is definitely going to play more of a role in this report than I originally anticipated. So the breakdown between the bankroll management with the GOAT hero flyer and then the seasonality, thinking of it like investing other people's money, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I really like what you've got going here. Do you want to move on to a different subject, or can we stay on this for a little bit?
We can stay on this for a little bit, and then we should probably wrap up.
That's fine. I want to offer a rebuttal. And this is,
yeah,
I think you have Patrick Mahomes too high.
Okay.
And here's why. I think so. I've been saying this for the past couple of years, but now it's kind of like, or maybe not the past couple of years, but definitely like the past year and a half or so, especially around the narrative of people saying that Patrick Mahomes was going to be the next Brady. He's got so many weapons that it makes it really easy for himself. But like what Patrick Mahomes does differently than Brady is Brady, his whole life centered around football until all of a sudden what we've just experienced, he doesn't want that anymore. I don't see Patrick's whole life revolving around football like Brady's did. I think Patrick will eventually become maybe not complacent, but definitely just okay with where he's at. I think he's going to be okay with not being the best ever. I think he's going to be okay with not, winning 15 Super Bowls or whatever. I think he's eventually going to go more into branding. And you kind of see that with like what he's done buying into other franchises. He's bought into all the other professional teams in Kansas City, I believe. And I think he's really cashed in on what he's already done. But I think even for Patrick, he realizes I never thought that I would be here. And so I'm going to just like kind of live in it. But at the same time, you saw in the playoffs this year how he was potentially he wasn't very good. Let's just put it that way. Like especially in that last game, he cost the Chiefs the game. And I'm probably going to get railed for this in the comments as well. But what I am low on Mahomes. For instance, like when I look at a guy who's going to be a perennial, like greatest of all time, potentially top 10, I don't consider him in that realm. I think he's going to be great. I think he's definitely a hero in our conversation. I think he's going to be the Kansas City. He's going to go anywhere in Kansas City and going to have a beer for free anywhere he goes. But at the same time, like Would I say at their end of their careers that Joe Burrow is going to be better than him? Probably. Like that's where I'm at least, and so but I also don't think it's only. I think you have a couple of these quarterbacks that I would say are better long-term investments than what you could afford for a Mahomes right now that would not necessarily be worth what it will be in, like I think if you look at like what you need to buy into a Mahomes right now versus what you would need to buy into, let's say, a Lamar Jackson right now versus what Lamar Jackson will be worth in 10 years versus what Mahomes will be worth in 10 years. I think the play would be, I think retrospectively, we will see that Mahomes necessarily was way more expensive in this period than he should have been.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely always want you to poke holes at this because I think it's going to make it better. And I agree with your wanting to take a look at Patrick Mahomes, and I did struggle with where to put Mahomes, and I think that the only reason why I have him ranked over Lamar and Trevor Lawrence, because I do think Lamar and Trevor Lawrence have a ways to go still in their value.
Yeah.
Like they should, and even Trey Lance, like I debated, like, should Trey Lance not be
I'm
like in
curious.
the top 5,
I'm
right?
curious about him in here. Like I was like, oh, Trey Lance at 19. Okay.
Yeah, I think I might have either kept him the same or maybe moved him down a little bit. He might have been at like 16 or something, and I moved him down. I think the reason why I have Mahomes in there is because it's weird. It's like watching Mahomes not be able to get to that second Super Bowl title makes me realize how hard it is again to win a Super Bowl. And he already has a Super Bowl. And as much as I want Lamar to win a Super Bowl, or I want Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence to be playoff quarterbacks and potentially win a Super Bowl themselves, because Mahomes already has one. It's almost like what you were talking about earlier with the Tigers shortstop, Christian. Help me with his last name
Santana.
again that you just bought. Christian Santana. So you bought Christian Santana because of his popularity. It's just going to take so much to knock Mahomes off the mountain in the hobby.
Yeah.
Like his market is so huge that it's going to take so much to knock him off that, like, I almost felt like it would be silly to not have him in the top 15. I think like I have to come up with real good reasons to rank Trevor, Lamar, or Trey above Mahomes right now, especially because I do think that because he lost the game himself, I agree with you. Like, he lost that game himself. Like, there's no way that the Chiefs should have lost that game, and Mahomes screwed that up for sure. Maybe you can blame Andy Reid a little bit because of the play calling at the end of the first half. I thought was just ridiculous. But I think his card prices could drop, and maybe because I'm anticipating them dropping a little bit this offseason and being at a little bit of a floor, it makes me like him a little bit more. I could be wrong on that, but anyway,
okay,
I like where you're.
I like that. I like that argument.
For sure. I gotta have with this whole thing. I gotta have my rationale behind why I have guys in a certain spot, and I think that's definitely what I wanted to talk about with this discussion. So good stuff. And man, like last episode we did together, I mean, we could go, I think we've gone an hour and a half. We could easily go another hour and a half, but let's save that hour and a half for another show.
Sure.
So we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. And it's been great having you on as my co-host today. Is there anything you wanted to add before I hit him with the outro here?
No, I definitely plug this report again. I think if specifically if you're not knowing where to start, this is a good list of saying these are the guys you should probably be looking for or at if you can afford them. Some of them I would say like you're going to be a little bit higher than you can afford, and so I think there is ways to get into the hobby on necessarily not buying Tom Brady's. Like if you can't afford a Tom Brady rookie, But at the same time, don't just buy a cheap Tom Brady card because it's a cheap Tom Brady card. Like if it's a cheap Tom Brady card now, it's going to be worthless Tom Brady card, probably in a couple of years. So I think that's another thing that I learned the hard way is like, oh, I'm going to buy a Tatis card. Oh, I'm going to buy this dollar Tatis card, and it because everything's going up on Tatis. Well, now that Tatis card is worth even less than $1, So it's like those are things that I think if we can help new people out about saying don't necessarily buy a cheap version of the top 5 guys, because there's a reason it's already the cheap version. But
totally, there are no deals really. There's people know what they're doing, and if something's too good to be true, if it seems too good to be true, it definitely is. It's like that's why I'm all into the player prospecting angle, because I mean, you buy something because you think there are markers coming up for this guy to have card prices increase. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned. So if you upgrade to the premium version of the report, you actually get not only the low end, mid range, and high end cards that you should invest in, but you get the play, like the recommended play with the guy. So you get the context around like why Booker's third, or why, Lewis Hamilton wasn't on the report and now he is, like those different things will be under the play section. So definitely take a look at the free version, but if you upgrade, you do get a lot more. And thanks for being on, Kendall. I want to give credit to our sponsor of today's show, marketmoversapp.com by Sports Card Investor. Kendall and I want you to go there and use the promo code NOOFFSEASON to save 20%. Also, check out Wild Cards Box Breaks on Facebook, where my guy Kendall and his boy T, our friend T, do their thing. Definitely get into some breaks over there. Check out justbaseball.com. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Subscribe, comment, like. Want you to do all that good stuff. And thanks again for watching and listening, everybody. Have a great day.